How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to another episode of Review the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. As you can see, the scores at the moment are 42 to myself, 37 to Sim, and the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick them, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's start off at the London Stadium. It was West Ham 0, Chelsea 3. Sim went for 2-1 to West Ham. I went for 2-1 to Chelsea, so I gained a point on the board for this one. And I thought it was a really good display from Chelsea. I thought West Ham were pretty poor throughout, and it was a well-deserved victory for Chelsea, to be fair.
It's the first time in Premier League history they've started the season with 3 home defeats in a row.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So it's got to be a bit of a concern for them. And also, I thought we were watching a bit of this game before the Spurs game, and I thought their defending was absolutely atrocious. I mean, that first goal for Nick Jackson, they just give him the freedom of that left-hand side of the pitch and just let him run and run all the way into the penalty area. No one even has the thought to stop him getting close to goal. And I thought it was some atrocious defending. What I would say is Chelsea at the moment do seem to be clicking, especially away from home. They've got unbelievable attacking talent, but the one who's standing out at the moment is Nick Jackson. He's been incredible, and I think people need to put a bit more respect on his name, because people criticised him last season, but he did get 14 goals in his first season as a young striker. I know he missed a lot of chances, but all that proves to me is that there's a lot of scope to get even more goals than he did. And he started the season really well. He got 2 fine finishes. He seems to have added a bit more composure maybe in front of goal on the basis of those 2 goals. And then you got Sancho and Palmer, who are obviously really creative players, and they were pulling the strings as well. And I was really impressed with some of their build-up play as well, Chelsea. So a really impressive away win at the London Stadium, which is not an easy place to go, and to batter them like that was very impressive from Chelsea. And Maresca at the moment doing some good things with them, but it's only early on. They do have a really tough run of fixtures coming up, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare against some really good teams coming up in their next few fixtures. But I have to say, Maresca started quite well at Chelsea at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. I understood maybe the criticism coming in for Nick Jackson maybe at the start of his Chelsea career, but I thought he really grew into last season. As you say, he's got a bundle amount of goals, started this season really well. So I think he's growing into a really fine Premier League striker, to be honest. That's shown the ability to get goals and assists on a regular basis. So Maresca's definitely got them purring. We'll have to wait and see. It's still early days. But on the other side, West Ham are looking really poor at the moment. Like you say, 3 home defeats in a row, never been seen in the Premier League before, and even when they were fighting for relegation and all this kind of stuff. And with their defensive frailties that they're showing, I mean, they've got Todibo just sitting there on the bench. 5 games in now, we haven't seen him at all.
Yeah, and how they got caught out. They seem to be playing a fairly high-ish line, and they seem to be getting caught out in behind every time. Jackson had an ocean of space to run into, and Todibo's quite a fast defender, so you would have thought putting him in there is the obvious choice. Kilman seems a bit slow at the moment. Mavropanos, I don't know why they're persisting with him. He's never seemed to be that good in the Premier League, to be honest. So there's even reports, I mean, it's not from great sources, but there are reports to say that if he doesn't get wins in his next few games, he could be under real pressure. So worrying times for Lopetegui, but I do think he's a manager where you got to give him a bit of time, because they made a lot of signings in the summer. He's got to bed them all in. He hasn't really found a way to get them all into the side just yet. So I think give him time and patience. They've got good players there, but it's been a fairly concerning start to the season, considering the amount of excitement going into the season for West Ham and their supporters having let Moyes go and got this really good manager in. It's not been the start they hoped for, I think.
Next 3 games for West Ham: away to Brentford, at home to Ipswich, and away to Tottenham. Obviously Tottenham's their cup final and all that kind of stuff, which I always turn up for. But in the next 2 games against Brentford and Ipswich, in my opinion, they got to pick up 4 points. Otherwise, it does ring the alarm bells.
Yeah, I would say so.
Next up, we're going to go to Villa Park. Aston Villa 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. And, I thought a shock was going to be on the cards for a minute, because Cunha puts Wolves 1-0 up. and it took for the 73rd minute for Aston Villa to get back in the game. And then once that goal goes in, the floodgates kind of opened, didn't it? John Duran once again coming off the bench and getting on the score sheet. Ollie Watkins seems to be back at it as well, getting on the score sheet. So a really good win for Aston Villa. Maybe first half performance a bit of cause for concern, but they responded in the second.
Yeah, they seemed a bit sloppy in that first half. The goal they conceded was from a really bad mistake from Diego Carlos, playing out the back, giving it straight to Cunha. And to be fair to Cunha, he makes him absolutely pay with a fine finish on the edge of the box. And I thought Wolves in the first half, they were the better team, and they could have been a couple of goals up if it wasn't for some poor finishing and some good saves from Martinez. And I thought Wolves were good value for that 1-0 lead in the first half. But Villa came on strong, and it did feel like one of those games where if they got one, they could get a couple, because they were putting a lot of pressure on. They were getting frustrated. But Watkins did have a couple of chances before he got his opening goal. And then once he got that goal, it just seemed written that if there was time left, Villa would get the winner. They did do that. Konsa obviously at the back post, stealing in, and then John Duran, what was that, 4 goals now off the bench for him this season? Absolutely incredible. He's been the best super sub I think you could ever wish for. I think he came on quite early in this one. They partnered him with Watkins for a part of this game. So I think that might be a sign of things to come.
He came on with half an hour to go.
Yeah, so I think it might be a sign of things to come here for Emery, because there's only so long you can ignore him.
We were saying the same last weekend, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly. So he comes on, scores again, and Villa, with Champions League football, you would have thought they might struggle this season, but 4 wins out of 5 games, they made an unbelievable start. Obviously, once games are coming thick and fast, we'll have to see how they do. And obviously, there were signs of a bit of struggle in the first half in this one, but they got over the line and they got a win. And in a derby game as well, can always be difficult, but they got those 3 points and they've made a really good start. But Wolves, route to the bottom at the moment.
Yeah,
a bit concerning for them.
It is concerning for them and Gary O'Neill. And when you're losing someone like Pedro Neto and don't really replace him with that much quality, it's always going to be an uphill task, to be honest. But I back Gary O'Neill to turn it around. I do think he's a good manager.
They're very reliant on Cunha, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But with Aston Villa, I mean, this was one of those classic cliches, a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? Because Villa had no shots off or on target in the first half, and Wolves had about 10 shots in that first half, and then it was the flip reverse in the second half. I think, Aston Villa had 7 shots in the first half, in the second half, and 5 big chances, and Wolves had absolutely nothing. 0 XG.
So yeah, exactly, and so I think that was I think Wolves kind of gave too much respect to Villa. I mean, maybe Villa put it on them a bit more, but Wolves should know they had a midweek game. Villa did in the Champions League, so if they can maybe force some counters in the second half, catch them out, but they just weren't even trying to. They just sat deep, and it cost them in the end.
Yeah. Let's go to Craven Cottage. Fulham 3, Newcastle 1. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 2-1 to Newcastle. And it was the Emil Smith-Rowe show once again. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Raul Jimenez back on the score sheet as well, who started the season really well this season with Fulham, and Marco Silva. But I feel like Newcastle have been getting away with it more or less all season, to be honest. You cast your mind back to the Tottenham game where Tottenham absolutely dominated them for the most part. They snatched and grabbed the win. And I feel like they've been threatening to do that. They've been threatening to lose a game like this pretty much all season. And it came up against a really good Fulham side to put them away finally.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, this result's been coming for Newcastle. I think their performances have been fairly disappointing this season, and it was only a matter of time before they got undone. But from Fulham's point of view, they're putting... first of all, Jimenez is looking a lot sharper all of a sudden at the start of the season, a couple of goals, and the way he took his goal was like the Jimenez we saw in his early days at Wolves, just on his chest, a quick snapshot, fired it into the corner. It was really exciting to see. And if they can get the Jimenez anywhere close to what he was when he was at his best at Wolves, I mean, they've got obviously a proper striker there, and they're putting together quite a front forward line. Obviously, Adama, we know what he's capable of. He's very frustrating, but he's been getting goal contributions.
He started the season really well.
We know what he's capable of. He's a physical specimen who, at his best, is unstoppable when he's in full flight. And if Marco Silva can be getting him, making better decisions in the final third, he could be a real asset. Smith-Rowe, we know how good he was when he was first breaking into the Arsenal team. He's a really good player as well, and obviously he's been out of the team for injuries with Arsenal. Now he's getting back to his best at Fulham, and then they've got the likes of Iwobi and Reece Nelson who can be good players as well. So they've got like a kind of Arsenal reject forward line, but it's kind of working for them, and it's kind of a fun forward line. And even Moon is off the bench as well, who was doing well last season. So
grabbed an assist as well.
Grabbed an assist. They've got signed Joachim Anderson. They signed Joachim Anderson, who's a really good centre-back. He was doing really well at Palace. So they've been
Anthony Robertson as well.
Anthony Robertson's a good left-back. So Marcus Silva's done some good business, I feel like, in the summer. And they're at the moment reaping the benefits. What I would say is, having seen the goals, the Smith-Rowe's goal, Pope's an absolute howler. How has he spilled that into the net? Really, really shocking. And then Newcastle did get back in the game. Obviously, Harvey Barnes was a really clinical finish. And then Fabian Schär, what a chance he had to make it 2-2. He tackled Smith-Rowe on the edge of the box. He had Isaac to his right to just, all he had to do was slip him in, and he had the open goal. But he went himself and put it wide. And then Bruno Guimaraes made an awful mistake, gives it straight to Reece Nelson, and he makes it 3-1. So Fulham well deserved the win. I think they were much the better team throughout the game. And Newcastle, they had that result coming. But yeah, Fulham's going to be interesting to see how they go on this season, because they've got a very interesting team, I feel.
Yeah, they have made good signings in the forward line for their level. But I can't see them breaking into the top 10 in the top half of the table. I think they'll be like top half of the bottom half, if that makes sense. And Smith-Rowe's been an inspired signing. I think all season, straight from his debut, he's been central to everything that they're doing. I'm so impressed with what he's showing in a Fulham shirt right now. And Reece Nelson comes on and scores. Yeah, so Arsenal rejects doing well.
Very well, yeah.
Leicester against Everton, which finished 1-1 at the King Power. Sim went for 2-0 to Everton. I went for 2-2 in this game, so I grab another point for this one, and another game where Everton take the lead and don't take all 3 points.
That's got to be really concerning, because that's like what Sean Dyche prides himself on, being a team that can hold on to a lead and being defensively solid, and being a team that can shut out opposition teams and being compact. And in this game, having seen the highlights, they were very much the better team for a lot of it. They had some really good chances. Obviously, we went 1-0 up with a really good goal from Ndiaye. Really, who's obviously a summer signing from Marseille, was quite a decent. It wasn't great at Marseille, but I've seen him a few times. Very tricky winger. He has a low centre of gravity, can weave in and around with defenders, and obviously took his goal so well. And I thought it was a big threat in that first half. Nearly got an assist as well for Lindstrom, and they'll be so annoyed that they didn't maybe kill off the game. Calvert-Lewin missed a chance late on to seal it with a good opening, and they just kept the game open for Leicester, didn't they? Late in the game, and Leicester put them under a bit of pressure late on, and it was, I don't know if you've seen the goal that they scored. It was such poor defending from Everton. Corner comes in, they just couldn't clear their lines. It's bobbling around the 6-yard box, and Mavdidi just prods it home, and Everton will be absolutely distraught. They couldn't hold on to a lead, and the fact now that they've the first 2 games have got battered, the last 3 games they've had leads and given them up. Sean Dyche will be scratching his head as to how to turn this around at the moment, because this is I thought this is a real opportunity to get 3 points and a way to a promoted team, which I think last season they did quite well in these kind of games, and they've struggled to get wins on the board. That's 5 games now, no wins, 1 point in the first 5 games, and Dyche is definitely under pressure. He needs to get that win.
Yeah, look, he does, but Dyche and Everton have been here before, haven't they? They had a poor start to last season, then something seemed to click. But when Everton are showing poor defensive actions, they pride themselves on being one of the best defensive sides in the league. They got second amount of clean sheets last season, level with Man City with 13 clean sheets in the league. So I do think Dyche will eventually get it right, and it will click at some point, but they're definitely worrying signs at the moment, that's for sure.
Next 2 games, Palace at home and Newcastle at home. I mean, it is 2 home games, but there's the next 2. If they don't get a win in either of those, I mean, he does have a really good run coming up after that. He's got Ipswich, then Fulham, then Southampton. So there is opportunities to get points, but Palace and Newcastle are 2 really tough games. And if he goes 7 games without a win, that could, that's nearly a third of the,
I know, but I remember sitting here and having the exact same conversation with you last season.
Yeah, but they need to show progression, don't they?
Yeah, they need to show progression, but they need to get good players in as well. I mean, with the squad that they have now,
Lindstrom, they're good players.
They're okay.
like
I mean,
them.
they're
I
unproven.
think they're
They're
good players.
completely unproven in the
Lynch was
Premier
very good
League.
at Frankfurt.
At Frankfurt, yeah. But we've seen players do well in the Bundesliga, and that doesn't relate to the Premier League. And it's his first year in the Premier League. You know, sometimes it takes players time to acclimatise to the league. It doesn't happen straight away. It's not an overnight job. So I don't think they've done that well in the transfer window in terms of here and now getting results straight away. Yes, you want to see progression if you're an Everton fan, but I think that's just where Everton are at the moment.
Yeah, but if they go seven games without a win, if they don't get a win in the next two, I mean, definitely the noise is going to grow around Sean Dyche.
For sure, it probably will grow, but I back Sean Dyche to turn it around.
I think he can keep them up, but is that all they want, just to keep themselves up?
It's not all they want, but that's where they're at.
Well, that's not what Everton fans, I think, believe. But in terms of Leicester, obviously, that, to be fair, obviously still no wins, but that's their third draw of the season, so picking up a few points along the way. I mean, still not impressive though. I mean, they got a draw last week against Palace where they were 2-0 up and gave it up. They got a draw against Spurs where they should have lost. This one, I think as well, they probably got away with it. 95th minute equaliser, and just about kept themselves in the game and got a draw, but still not convinced by them just yet that they're going to be staying up, but they are getting some points, so credit to them for not losing. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Leicester, from a results perspective, have actually done pretty well so far in the first 5 games of the season, because there was a lot of negativity. You remember when we spoke to that Leicester fan just before the start of the season when we were about to play them, the negativity seeping through into the fan base saying, yeah, we're definitely going back down, there's no chance we can stay up. But look, with the results they've got in the first 5 games, if they can carry on that form and even get better and progress through the season, they should have an all right season.
Well, I don't know. I'm still sceptical about them.
Let's go on to Anfield. Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 2-0, and obviously it was somewhere in the middle at 3-0. And I felt like Bournemouth actually started this game really well in the first 5 to 10 minutes, but I think once Liverpool really got a foothold in the game, they kind of just blew Bournemouth away, didn't they? It was 3-0 by half time and the game was pretty much done. I mean, Bournemouth came back in the second half and created a couple of chances, but it was a little too late really, and they just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, and obviously they had that goal ruled out from VAR right at the beginning of the game through Semenyo, who actually put them up 1-0 up at Anfield last season before they lost 3-1. So it looked like it was going to be a repeat, but it got ruled out. And Liverpool just fully took advantage. I have to say, by the way, Luis Diaz, what a start to the season he has had.
5 goals.
Incredible. Yeah. And he seems like he's got a new lease of life under Arne Slot. He's really unlocked something in him. Obviously, he's always been an unbelievable dribbler and a really aggressive, direct player. But he's always kind of left you wanting more in the final third. He's always been a player who, when he gets into those positions, a bit similar to Adama Traore, he gets into those positions and he makes a wrong decision or his finishing's not quite there and he rushes shots and things like that. But I feel like this season he's taken on a new lease of life, and when he gets into the final third, he's making the right decisions. He's added a bit of composure to his game. The first goal, the way he took it was absolutely phenomenal, on his chest, going around the keeper and just slotting it home. Really, really brilliant finish, and that's something that we haven't quite seen from Luis Diaz since he's come to the Premier League. He's always been a bit of a player who's flat to deceive a bit, who looks like incredible, but then he ends the season with not many goals and assists. But maybe that's really starting to turn under Arne. So I think he's been one of the players of the season so far in the Premier League.
I agree with that, but actually I was when I was watching the Copa in the summer, he actually had a really strong Copa for Colombia. He scored a number of goals. I think he scored about 4 or 5 goals in the Copa during the summer. He was Colombia's best player by far. He was one of the players of the Copa over the summer. And it feels like he's kind of taken that form into this Premier League campaign, and he's a man that is just riding the wave at the moment. So I'd like to see if it lasts all season, because you've seen Luis Diaz throughout his Liverpool career go up and down and fluctuate in performance throughout the season. But he's definitely a man in form at the moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's a good response from Liverpool after losing to Forest last week. They've gone away to Milan and won 3-1. They've beaten a decent Bournemouth side 3-0 comfortably at home as well. So it looks like they're back on track at the moment.
Yeah. Southampton against Ipswich, a battle of the promoted clubs. It finished 1-1. Both of us went for 2-1 to Ipswich, and Southampton go 1-0 up early doors here. And it was kind of an even game up until right at the end, and then Ipswich kind of get that sucker blow to Southampton, who thought they were on their way to their first 3 points of the season.
Yeah, deflected effort in the 95th minute. It's got to be gutting with Southampton. And Southampton, I thought, played really well and probably were unlucky not to win this game.
How many times have we said that this season?
Yeah, true. But this one, I thought that defensively, I mean, I guess, Ipswich don't have the attacking talent that maybe a lot of the other Premier League teams have. But I thought Ipswich struggled to really hurt Southampton for a lot of this game. And I have to say, this young player, Tyler Dibling, looks like a real prospect for Southampton. I thought he was excellent against Man United last week. He won the penalty, which obviously they missed, and I thought he was giving them a lot of trouble. Opened his account with, if you look at the goal, it's a brilliant goal. The way he takes it, like a seasoned striker, one touch inside the box and takes it past the defender and slots it home. It's absolutely brilliant from him. An 18-year-old prospect coming through Southampton, who, by the way, have always known to have a brilliant academy, haven't they, Southampton? They do produce some serious talent. The talent that have come through there in the past is unbelievable. So he could be the next in line, and he looks like a real prospect. He should have had an assist as well to play a beautiful through ball to Cameron Archer, who took around the keeper and hit the post, and he'll be disappointed he didn't get at least a goal on this one, Archer, because he had missed some serious opportunities. But they paid for I would say for Archer missing those chances, because right at the end Ipswich found their way back in the game and got the draw. So Southampton will be so annoyed because they've played some decent football a beginning part of the season, but just haven't got the reward for it. And only 1 point first 5 games has been going to be very frustrating. Ipswich is similar to Leicester, have started the season with 3 draws. Drew away at Brighton. They drew today, and they also drew. That's 3 draws in a row. So actually unbeaten in 3 games, which is, albeit no wins, that's something to build on when you're trying to get when you're getting used to Premier League football. Yes, I'll be disappointed they haven't got a win after the first 5 games, but they've got something to build on here, I feel.
Yeah, it is something to build on, but it can't, when you draw a number of games in a row, it can kind of build 2 kind of narratives. Obviously, haven't lost in 3 games, but then if you don't build on that and you don't win after these 3 games, then all of a sudden it's a really long winless run, a winless streak. So it can go one of either way, can't it?
Yeah, true.
Next up, we're going to go to Spurs against Brentford. Tottenham 3, Brentford 1. We both went for 2-1 to Spurs, so both get a point on the board for this one. And I thought really good performance for Spurs, best performance of the season. We kind of were able to make that domination pay. We didn't have as much possession in this one, but we looked more of a threat than we ever have done all season. So credit to Ange to changing and making a few tactical tweaks. And Brentford kind of did hurt us a little bit. They did create their chances, but I thought it was a well-deserved victory for Tottenham, and it could have been even more than 3.
Yeah, and Brentford, are not an easy team to play against. They're very organised, very good from set piece, and they had the perfect start. We gave them the 1-0 head start after 20 seconds, which is pretty much if you're a Brentford team, exactly what you want in this kind of game, to have something to hang on to. But Tottenham didn't let their heads drop. They reacted superbly to going behind early on, and in fact they were level within, I think inside 10 minutes they were level, deservedly so. They pressed Brentford into oblivion, and they just couldn't live with their pressing and the creativity of Maddison and Kulusevski in the pockets. Son was creating chances for fun out on the left-hand side, and Tottenham kind of switched things up in this one, allowing Brentford a bit more possession. Tottenham this season have had a narrative of just having lots of possession and struggling to break down low blocks, and in this one they changed it up a bit, gave Brentford a bit of the ball so they could press them a bit more, turned it into a bit more of a transitional game, and that worked in their favour. Solanke getting his first goal for Tottenham as well, which is really important for him to break his duck, and Tottenham got the result that maybe some of their performances this season have been threatening, but they just haven't got over the line. In this one, they deservedly got the win. And as well, they got an XG of 3.5, which, I don't know this for a fact, but I'd hazard a guess that's probably the highest XG of the week, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was.
5. So that goes to show the level of chances they created in this one. So hopefully it's signs of Tottenham really starting to click, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Hard games ahead now. Manchester United away and Brighton away. So if we can get, a minimum of 4 points from those 2 games, then I'll agree with you there. But it's too much of a small sample size for me. But let's move on to Crystal Palace against Man United, which was the 5:30 kickoff. Finished 0-0. Sim went for 2-1 to Palace. I went for 2-2, so I get a point on the board here. And look, Man United had a host of chances in this game, which I think we seem to be repeating the same things with Man United, Host of chances, can't put the game away, and they don't win the game. And I think Man United, out of everyone in the league, I think they're sitting there on the second highest XG out of everyone, out of the whole league this season. So it shows they're doing some things right. They just can't put the ball in the back of the net.
I thought in the first half they had a lot of chances, and Garnacho and Bruno had that moment where they both.
It was a different game. It was a game. It was one of those games of two halves again.
Where and Man United should have been in the lead in the first half, to be fair. And going away to Palace, even though Palace haven't started the season so well, it's still not easy, especially the way they set up. And Man United really created a good level of chances against them opening early on. And Garnacho had a couple of really good openings. De Ligt had a chance from a set piece. They should have been 1-0 up, but they didn't. And second half, Palace came out in a completely different mode, and they should have really been in the lead in that second half. Eze had that gilt-edged chance, and then let's talk about that double save from Onana. It's been like a week of double saves this week, and that probably tops a lot with an unbelievable double save. First of all from Nketiah, and then Sarr looks like he's about to tap it home, but he jumps in there, just puts his body in the line. It's an excellent save and probably earns him a point there. So Man United won't be happy with the point, and I think also Palace probably won't be happy. It's a point that probably both teams won't be happy with at the end of that game, considering Palace still haven't won yet this season after 5 games. But again, they're on 3 consecutive draws now as well, so they're also unbeaten in 3, but they haven't won. Man United, on the other hand, start the season, that's now 1 win in their last 4. And even the wins they had against Fulham, against Southampton, they had struggles in those games as well. So as much as they've created a lot of chances, they still look vulnerable at the back, don't they?
Definitely. And I think there are a few similarities with the start of the season that Man United have had and the start of the season that Spurs have had. I do think Spurs have been better from their general play, and we have been conceding a lot less chances than them. But in terms of the amount of chances, I actually think Man United have probably created a lot better chances than Spurs this season.
Man United have created a lot of, but probably, because it's true. Apart from yesterday, probably.
Let's go to Brighton against Nottingham Forest on the Sunday. It finished 2-2. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 3-2. And you know what? Chris Wood with the penalty in the opening 15 minutes. By half-time, it's 2-1 to Brighton. And then with 20 minutes to go, Nottingham Forest level it up, and Morgan Gibbs-White gets sent off with 8 minutes to go. And we're watching it here in the studio, I'm licking my lips. I thought the 3-pointers coming my way. And Brighton, they just could not break that door down, could they? I mean, it was full survival mode for Nottingham Forest and full domination for Brighton in those final 8 minutes, but they just couldn't do enough to seal the win.
Yeah, but what is Nuno cooking at the moment? What is he cooking? Maybe we're all wrong about him, because they have started the season so well, Nottingham Forest. Are they still unbeaten? After 5 games, they are 2 wins, 3 draws, but they've had some really tough games. Away
Isn't this just Nuno's start of the season?
Maybe, but away to Liverpool, away to Brighton. They've had some difficult games there back to back, and got 4 points out of those games.
But you know what, they've
looked really good as well. They've actually looked good.
Absolutely. But we were talking yesterday and looking at their team, and their team is really good for a bottom half of the table team. You got to say the talent that they have there is brilliant. They got Milenkovic and Murillo as their centre backs. They got Moreno from Aston Villa last season. They got Ward-Prowse and Elliot Anderson in the middle. Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White, Elanga, and they got Chris Wood and Awoniyi on the bench. I mean, they've got some good talent there.
That Jota came on in.
Jota as well,
he looked quite good. He probably was being really annoyed because they had that chance with 10 men, didn't they, to get the win, and he just couldn't find Hudson-Odoi at the back post when he was through on goal. So that would be really disappointing. But Forest, I thought, played a really good counter-attacking game. Obviously, Brighton, after going 1-0 down, did turn it around, and Danny Welbeck scored a really good free kick, and they'll be really annoyed that they let their game slip. But I thought that Forest under Nuno, they're playing this a very good counter-attacking game at the moment, and they're giving a lot of good teams a lot of problems at the moment. So credit to Forest, unbeaten start. Brighton, on the other hand, obviously start the season well. They're also still unbeaten, but after the first 2 games they won 3-0 against Everton, and they beat United. That's sort of 3 draws in a row. In the last 2 games, home to Ipswich and at home to Forest, 2 draws. So there's a bit of evidence of them still having a bit of struggle, but Fabian Hertz has still started well with an unbeaten start. I think he probably would have taken it at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. You're looking at Brighton. They've had some big results this season. I thought it was always a bit too good to be true for Brighton to just go and blitz and win every single game. A few bumps in the road have got to come at some point, but You got to give the manager credit. The youngest manager in the league by some way. What is he? 31 years of age. I mean, he's younger than a lot of the players in the league. So look, massive credit to Hertzler, massive credit to Nuno as well. It was kind of a really good game of football and two teams bang going at it. So Brighton, Spurs coming up soon. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm happy a few bumps in the road are coming before that game. And let's finish off with the Manchester City against Arsenal game, which finished by 2-2. Sim went for 1-0 to City. I went for 0-0. So I get a point here. And when the way the game started, it looked like Man City were just going to absolutely blitz Arsenal. Erling Haaland finds that gap in between the two centre-backs. And you're like, wow, this Arsenal rearguard who have been so strong for the last 2 years completely split like the Red Sea. And Erling Haaland batters it in the back of the net and it goes 1-0. And you're thinking, with the way the game's going, Arsenal's sitting deep, Man City absolutely pummeling them at every opportunity. You're thinking this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Arsenal just get something out of nothing, don't they? Absolutely nothing. Was it Calafiori who scored the first goal?
Calafiori, yeah. I mean, he scored. I mean, what a goal, to be fair. And that was actually his first start for Arsenal. And what a brilliant goal. But there was controversy with that goal because, the referee calls over Kyle Walker to have a chat with him after, because they're talking about something. There's a foul. And then the referee doesn't even let Kyle Walker get back in position before he lets Arsenal take a free kick. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. Now, you could argue that Walker forced Martinelli back anyway. Maybe even if he was back in position, that same thing would have happened. But I still think it's ridiculous that the referee did that. Because if you're calling over the player, the right back, you've got to let him get back in position before you allow that free kick to be taken. Otherwise, that causes a whole load of problems. And I can understand why Walker was upset with that. Albeit, you can't really take anything away from that strike from Calafiori. What a goal.
Unbelievable. And look, we've been talking about Calafiori a lot of last season, all the way through the summer, and he just showed how amazing this guy can be on the ball. What a player he is. He just kind of finessed it into the top corner, didn't he? What a finish. And then a few minutes later, or like 20 minutes later, the set piece, they got the set piece warning about 10 minutes before that with Gabriel, where he had an open free header and he probably should have scored, but he made no mistake just before half time.
Will no one be able to stop Arsenal from set pieces? It's incredible. You know what they're going to do, but they just can't stop it. First of all, what the hell was Walker doing from that corner? He's like tapping him and then ends up losing his man, doing all that. I don't know what he was doing. But Arsenal, I don't understand. First of all, I thought there was new regulations about the keeper. I told you. What did I tell you at the beginning of the season? I want to see it to believe it before
Martinelli is backing him.
He's stopping the goalkeeper moving. They've got like two players around the goalkeeper. Look, I don't know if it's a foul or not, but there's got to be some way you can end up combating that. They've got to be stronger. The Man City players, they've got to protect their keeper. They didn't. They put the ball right. It's a brilliant corner from Saka right onto Gabriel's head, and bam, it's 2-1. And you get that feeling when it was 2-1 Arsenal with their defence, it was always going to be very, very difficult to break them down. But then it makes it even more difficult for Arsenal when Trossard gets sent off on the stroke of half time.
What an idiot, though. What an idiot Trossard is. Like, why are you kicking the ball away? First of all, I think it was a foul from Trossard, and then he kicks the ball away. And after what they've been through with Declan Rice against Brighton, surely they would have learnt their lesson, like to not kick the ball away. And I know there's the whole thing saying Doku did it and he didn't get booked, and which is fair enough. That's on the referees to not show consistency.
Doku didn't do it.
Doku kicked the ball away.
He didn't. He was giving it back to Arsenal.
Or was he giving back to Arsenal?
Yeah. Well, the people have looked at that, and actually, if you see what the referee's doing, he's saying the free kick was being taken in the wrong position. So he said, put it back.
Didn't he hit it harder than maybe he should have, and it went past everyone?
All I'm saying is the free kick was actually taken quicker because Doku did that, not slower.
Fair enough, but look, the double standards were there in the Brighton game in terms of the two bookings of the kicking the ball away, but it doesn't take away from the fact, like, whatever you think of the rules, those are the rules. So if Trossard is kicking the ball away and everyone wants to make a meal out of this red card, it is a red card. Why are you doing that when you're on a booking? It makes no sense.
And also, why shouldn't it be a booking? Why shouldn't delaying the restart and delaying the game and why shouldn't that be a yellow card? Just because it's happened now twice to Arsenal in the past few weeks, but it's only a controversy because the players have already been booked. If it was their opening yellow card, no one's talking about this. But because it's a second yellow, and Arsenal feel hard done by because it's a stupid thing to get a second yellow for, and you shouldn't really be losing players because they're kicking the ball away. And I understand that, but players have to be smarter. You shouldn't be delaying the restart. I think it should be a yellow card. There's nothing wrong with the rule. There's something wrong with players who are doing that on a yellow card. It's a stupid thing to do.
And I'm hearing from Arsenal fans, but the referee's got to be using common sense in that situation. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Players have to be using
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to be using common sense to follow the law. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Just because they can't take that, their players are being stupid. Declan Rice did it against Brighton now, and now Trossard's doing it against Man City. But look,
they just want an excuse for their shithousery to be allowed, essentially.
Basically. Yeah. And look, you got to give credit to Arsenal because in the second half, they dug deep, brought Ben White on. They sat 5 in a low block.
It was a 6-3.
Or 6, yeah. And they dug deep, and Man City just had no answer. They just could not break them down for love nor money for the whole half.
I actually think... Yes, I give a lot of credit to Arsenal because it's not easy doing that against the best team on the ball probably in the world, in Man City. But I don't know what Guardiola was doing. He waited until like the 75th minute to make any changes. It clearly wasn't working for so long. All they were doing was spamming shots from Walker and Ruben Diaz for basically 30 minutes. When it was so obvious that you put in the game that was in front of him. Obviously, you need Grealish and Foden in this game because they're the kind of players in between those small spaces that were going to make the difference. I don't understand why he waited for so long. And actually, when he brought them on, especially Grealish, it made a massive difference. I thought all of a sudden they started to find little pockets and they started to get in behind Arsenal a bit. And obviously the goal came because Grealish, took that corner early and got into the box and forced an opportunity. So I don't know why he waited so long to bring them both on. I thought it was terrible bit of game management. I thought Man City were actually terrible. I know Arsenal did really well, and I give them a lot of credit because they made Man City look terrible, but they were terrible for what they weren't trying anything. They weren't even getting crosses in the box. They weren't doing any overlaps. They weren't getting men in the box. So a lot of the time, it was just Haaland and like Bernardo Silva they're crossing the ball into. I'm like, what is this I'm watching? Why don't they get some intricate players in there? And it did make a difference when they came on. So I think a lot of it was down to how bad Man City were. But credit to Arsenal, they defended 6-3 players in the box. They made it super difficult for Man City to find any sort of space, and they restricted Man City to really low quality chances, and that's not easy to do. So, but they did concede, and I think that goal was a big goal. As much as obviously they would have taken a point before the game, in that moment they found themselves in with a minute or a few seconds to go, to concede that.
Poor goal to concede as well.
Really poor goal to concede, and they'll be so gutted with that. So it's obviously an amazing point with 10 men for Arsenal, but it would have been a big statement they would have won. So it's a big goal in that context.
I think so, and I think like when you're talking about the title race, it's hard to talk about it when it's only 5 games into the season. But you look at last season, and they took 4 points off Man City and still couldn't win the title. I feel like they'll be thinking to themselves going into the last minute, they had one more attack to deal with, to contend with going in, and if they deal with that attack, they go and win the game. And I think if they can potentially get 6 points off Man City in the title race, then that is really significant. But Man City have already shown that they can concede 4 points to Arsenal in the title race and still beat them. So I think it could have a big psychological blow to Arsenal as well.
But I think the most important thing coming out of that game could be Rodri, because he's supposedly might have picked up a really bad injury.
ACL, they're saying.
There's rumours. There's a rumour here now. The latest saying is maybe he might have avoided a serious injury, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't know who this is. But you know what?
Man City have been on absolute fire this season, at the start of the season, and Rodri, that was the first game Rodri played in the Premier League. So I feel like so far this season, they've figured out ways to play without Rodri.
We'll have to wait and see how they do it over a long stretch. If he's out for the whole season, I mean, that's something different to a few games.
Because you looked at last season, Rodri was out for a few games, and they all of a sudden just lost all those games. They couldn't buy a win for love nor money without Rodri. But now they've seemed to have kind of overcome that.
But again, at the beginning of the season, they've done really well. But over a whole season, can they do it without Rodri over a whole season rather than just a few games?
But on Arsenal, look, before the game, you would have taken a point 100%, but I think it will be a massive blow not to get the 3 points in that game. However, you're looking at Arsenal's next few games. They've had these games against Tottenham, Atalanta and Man City, low blocked in all these 3 games, got the results in all 3 games, albeit not the prettiest of performances and not the best of performances, but really good defensive displays. With Odegaard out now, they're going to be asked in the games coming up, where they're going to be massive favourites in these games, and they're going to be asked to have the ball, dictate the tempo of play, and really go at their opponents and ask questions. And I feel like without Odegaard, that could be a massive problem for them.
Yeah, I think it could be. I think obviously the next game they got Leicester. I don't think they need Odegaard to win that game. But when they come up against like difficult team, like who they got coming up after that, they've got. Leicester's Hampton, they're probably going to get 2 wins out of 2 of those games.
But Odegaard's out for, apparently they're saying, between 2 and 3 months.
I actually think they might be all right in the next 3, because I think Leicester, Southampton,
I'm
Bournemouth,
talking about over a long stretch of time. Yeah, fine, they'll be all right against the teams that are in the relegation
stretch, if he's out for this stretch, they've got Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, and Forest.
What month is that in?
That's October, November.
Yeah, he will be out for that.
If he is out, we'll have to wait and see. But if he is out for that stretch of games, then that's where they could struggle. But I think in the next 3, they might be all right.
I don't think it will hurt them for the games that they need to low block in. It'll be the games which they need to attack.
Yeah.
Because they're a completely different team with and without Odegaard when they're actually asked to attack. And it's gonna be question marks for Arsenal, because they've never had to deal with that. And they scored most amount of goals last season, and he was central to a lot of things that they were doing. So it's just a question mark for Arsenal.
But Villa away, Spurs away, City away, 7 points.
Yeah.
I mean, can't complain about that.
No, they've had a very good start to the season in terms of results. And there's a bit of fire coming into this rivalry now between Arsenal and Man City, which has like shades of the old Man United Arsenal.
Haaland.
Haaland.
Arteta to stay humble.
Yeah, he should. Arteta should stay humble.
Absolutely right.
And I think I just don't enjoy watching these Arsenal Man City games anywhere near as much as that I enjoyed the Liverpool Man City games, where you had 2 amazing teams going toe to toe. It feels like when you're watching Arsenal against Man City, yes, I know they had the red card, but they were doing it beforehand. They did it a lot of last season against Man City as well. But it just feels like it's like a David v Goliath battle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like Arsenal don't really back themselves. They like to go toe to toe footballing wise, so they always drop a bit. But actually, the first half was a really good game of football, to be fair. And I thought it was ruined by that red card, unfortunately. But
yeah.
Look, Arsenal have done really well, but we'll have to wait and see. It looks like they're going to be definitely another title charge this year, and the results at the moment point in that direction.
Yeah, let's see how they fare without Odegaard, and let's see how Man City fare without Rodri. But star men, Sim went for Delap, I went for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. No goals, no assists. So we end this week on Sim on 45 points, myself on 53 points. And that is your review of the Prem. We'll be back for another episode of Predict the Prem on Thursday. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.